The era of the empath is over. That may ruffle a few feathers, and for some, be confronting, especially if you've spent years recognizing yourself in that identity, refining it, learning to trust it, and perhaps even building parts of your life and work around it. But if you stay with me, you'll not only feel seen, I'm going to hand you the keys to the whole damn kingdom. And stay with me because you may realize that the empath was never the final form anyway. You may even want to leave the empath behind and rise as the asset. This is for the highly sensitive, the ones who feel everything in the room before a word is spoken, the ones who can detect a shift in tone, posture, or emotional undercurrent before anyone else has consciously registered that something changed. You've likely been described as intuitive, perceptive, emotionally intelligent, and in some environments that's been celebrated. In others, it was misunderstood. There is real biology underneath this, heightened sensory processing, a nervous system that takes in more data more quickly and with more nuance than most. Mirror neurons firing rapidly, picking up emotional cues and subtle signals without deliberate effort. And over time, this sensitivity becomes a way of orienting, and eventually it begins to shape identity. The empath becomes not just something you experience, but someone you are. And within that identity, there is a cost that goes unexamined. When your nervous system is that responsive, when it's constantly registering incoming signal, the volume of information begins to accumulate. Emotional tone, environmental shifts, interpersonal dynamics and history, and your own internal responses, thoughts, emotions layered on top. Without a way to filter or direct that input, it all starts to blur. So you feel more, but with less clarity. You sense more, but with less control over what you're sensing or how it's affecting you. This is where sensational overwhelm begins to take hold, and where signal confusion becomes a consistent feature of your experience. In one moment, your sensitivity allows you to connect deeply, to read a situation with precision. In another, everything is coming in at once without hierarchy, without separation, and without a clear sense of what belongs to you. The common response is to step back, to create distance, to regulate and reset. And for a time that works. It becomes a strategy for maintaining coherence in environments that would otherwise overwhelm your system. While that approach serves the moment, it consistently fails your evolution because the situations and the relationships you're stepping into, they don't slow down for your reset always. The conversations that matter are happening now. They don't pause. The opportunities that you're here to create, well, they don't always wait for you to feel settled before they just move on. The world moves on while you are busy resetting yourself. So the question becomes less about protecting your sensitivity and more about bringing it with you into environments that are moving at speed. That's where the empath, as it has been understood, falls short. Not because sensitivity is a vice, but because it isn't supported within a system that empowers it fully, and so it becomes a liability. In our work, we refer to this orientation at its strength as the asset. If you recognize yourself in what's being described, there's a strong possibility that your system is organized around sensitivity in this way. The cleanest way to confirm that, though, is through the quiz below this video. It will map how your system organizes under pressure and show you whether sensitivity-based awareness is your dominant orientation or something you access more intermittently. Even if it isn't your primary skin, what you'll start to see is that this capacity can be cultivated deliberately. The difference between the empath and the asset is not in how much is felt. It is in how that sensation is commanded. The empath experiences hyper receptivity without a reliable way to direct attention or regulate tension in real time. The system takes in signal, but it doesn't organize it cleanly. Without selective attention, everything feels equally important, and the body eventually has no choice but to escalate or withdraw. The result is a cycle of engagement and retreat, intensity and reset. When this pattern evolves, the same sensitivity becomes something entirely different. The asset maintains that same level of sensory awareness without the overwhelm. Sensation is present, but it's not flooding the system. Attention is expansive, but not scattered. There is an awareness of the environment, of other people, of internal state, but it's organized in a way that allows for choice. This shift happens across two fronts, both of which we train in depth in the Prestige. The first front is the cultivation of sensation without overwhelm. Through practices that slow the breath and expand attention without attachment, the system learns to process more signal without being emotionally impacted by each input. Instead of locking onto a single cue or being pulled by every fluctuation, attention becomes wide, stable, and responsive. Sensation remains, but it moves through a system that can hold it without destabilization. The second front is where most empaths encounter resistance. The asset is not a fixed persona. It is one orientation within a broader system of somatic patterns that everyone can access. In our model, there are 4 primary skins, each representing a different way of organizing attention and tension under pressure. The skins move along 2 underlying forces, attention and tension. Some organize through focus and awareness, others through structure or release. These are not roles or personality types. They are patterns that live in the tissues of the body and in the quality of attention that you bring to the moment. The work unfolds in stages. So first, you build capacity in your dominant skin so that what is natural becomes stable and reliable. The empath learns to hold the moment without fracture, and from there, you cultivate the others, developing the ability to access different orientations depending on what the moment requires. You learn to strike as the warrior, to see as the sage, to adapt as the shapeshifter. And over time, these transitions become fluid. You are no longer limited to a single way of responding. At that point, identity starts to loosen. Once the empath was navigating through one channel, now you're someone who can feel deeply, act decisively, adapt quickly, and focus precisely, without those capacities interfering with each other. The asset in its evolved form is the empath with agency, sovereignty, and command. It is sensitivity that no longer requires protection because it is supported by structure. Awareness that no longer leads to overwhelm because attention is trained. The ability to move between all 4 skins, not as an idea, but as a capability that shows up when it matters. This is the work we do inside the Prestige, our Applied Somatics Academy. We train conscious leaders, artists, entrepreneurs, and those who have long identified with sensitivity to develop this kind of range in real time, under pressure, in environments where it actually counts. If this resonates, start with a quiz, see how your system is currently organized. That alone will bring clarity most people never reach. And if you recognize the pattern, not just in its strengths, but in the places where it limits you, then you'll have a clear sense of what it would mean to evolve it. At a certain point, sensitivity stops asking to be protected, and it starts asking to be mastered. That's the work. We've got you.